Hey,
Hey.
we just saw one
Movie?
That's not the title.
No.
Well, one is like A. We just saw one singular sensation. Copyright infringement.
This is perfect because we're kicking off Music May.
That's right. It's Music May I here at Hey, we just saw a movie. Jinx. And I'm Josh.
No, I'm Michelle.
And we just saw a movie. And we watched movies.
We watched Bohemian Rhapsody.
That's right. Mama. I just killed a man, so hopefully this isn't being recorded.
You know, I never really paid attention to the words before.
Really? That was the first thing I thought about. I was like,
when he was singing,
this guy doesn't sound like a guy who would kill a person.
At the end of the movie, was the first time I really listened to those first lyrics. I was like, oh, I only knew Mama. And then I just blacked out for the rest of the words.
You didn't know the ooh.
Well, yeah, but like verse lyrics, I don't tend to pay much attention to sometimes.
The deepest part of the song, you're like, just get to the dance, dance.
The words sometimes are really just more of another instrument. And that's how my brain processes it. It's another instrument that's playing, and I don't really put together all the words that are happening.
Gotcha. Which
is how sometimes I bop along to really problematic songs. And then a lot of time goes by, and I realize, oh, that is a really terrible song.
It's like, Michelle, she's the worst. You're like, ooh, this is my jam?
Right. Hey, if it's in a good cadence and it's got the right beat going on, it might.
It's got a funky beat. I can bug out to it. That's you.
I get tricked.
You're the guy in all those rap videos. The lawyer. Wearing a suit next to the pool. The girl's got bikinis. It's got a funky beat.
Yeah. Sure. That's me.
That's you, to a T. I married a male lawyer from the 1980s that was in rap videos.
Yep.
So before we get to Bohemian Rhapsody, what we've been watching. And we've been watching a couple of things. Obviously, to the people watching this currently, and maybe not to the aliens that listen to this in the future, when it's actually a hit, we are still sheltering in place, or whatever title you want to put on it, or our rights are being infringed on, whatever side you're on.
We are protecting others by staying home. That's how I choose to see it.
That's how you see it?
Actually, it's more about protecting myself.
Yeah, it's more of a selfish act for you.
Yeah, but I'll say it either way.
You say it just as a political move. You'll be like, yeah, I'm doing this for other people. But in your heart.
In my heart, I'm staying home for me.
For me.
And you.
And me. For you and me. Just wait and see. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba. Put a syringe in your arm.
Put on your dancing shoes.
I was just trying to make a play towards COVID joke, not actually learn the song.
Dancing shoes are more fun than COVID.
Hey, but if I said put a syringe in your arm, that means there's a, what's it called?
Vaccine?
There you go. That's a pretty positive thing.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
I take it back.
There you go. I win.
All right. What else have we been watching?
So we haven't finished it, but we're watching Tales from the Loop, which is interesting. It's kind of like Tales from the Dark Side, or Tales from the Crypt, but
right. And I keep saying it's like Twilight Zone-ish.
Right.
A hint of, if you take all of those shows and mix them together
in
your mixer,
right,
and then sprinkle them onto the show.
The anthology idea, or I guess really not Tales from the Crypt and Tales from the Dark Side, because they all didn't link together. Because it's more of a American Horror Story than anything. It actually each episode links to the next one and the other. They all kind of work together.
They all do have they have a thread that gets them all together.
And they happen in the same town at the same time period.
But they also all stand alone, more or less.
Right.
Like if you haven't seen, if you just pick up an episode, you won't be completely lost because
There's
they're all
one
kind of
thing.
weird.
There's
Yeah, there'll be
one.
one thing that you're
There's
like,
one main thing.
what's that? But it's fine.
What's this? What's this? What's this? What's this? What's this? Yeah. So we've been watching that, and did you? Yeah, you were working, but I watched The Simpsons from last week, and it was actually good. It dealt with a lot of different things that
Well,
they
you did
don't.
like that. You were giggling a lot. I would
There,
turn around because you were giggling.
there was a lot of things that were just not. They didn't use the same tropes that they had been using. They used a bunch of different characters. They went out of state. Usually, it's just been the last couple of years. It's just been obviously Homer's dumb and he's doing something silly, and Bart's getting choked, and there's no like you never really see Otto much. You don't see like all those ancillary characters. They're usually not, but they had a new character and a bunch of different stuff, so that was cool.
Nice. The parts I heard, I liked.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounded like it had a lot of endings. I kept thinking, like, just audio, like, just listening, it sounded like the episode had concluded.
You mean
and then
auditorially?
Auditorially, and then it kept going.
Auditorially.
Yeah.
That's like editorial and auditory.
Auditorially. Whatever. It just kept going. So I didn't know if that was like, was there an end gag that just kept going, or?
No, The Simpsons does that a lot. It seems like it's ending.
Oh, okay.
And then it's not.
It's
There's
like a Marvel
act.
movie.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Like 95
It's
endings.
just it's just not 2.5 hours long.
Right.
And it doesn't cost $48 trillion.
Right. Well, you know what? Since we are doing Musical May,
mm-hmm.
I know you're not watching this, so this is more of what else I'm watching.
For the ladies.
No, for anybody who wants to watch it.
Hey, ladies.
Don't be sexist. It's
You're the one who's
show,
more sexist than me against women.
Maybe, but okay. So I was really.
You're like, they do be shopping though.
I really did not want to watch this show. I mean, I was intrigued, but not, because really, honestly, I saw the commercials and thought it was the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
It's for dumb.
And then I started watching it, and I hate to sound like a BuzzFeed article, but like I watched these episodes and fell in love. And so it was.
Wait, do you now feel dumb for watching the dumb show?
No, because it's not a dumb show. It's not dumb like I thought. So it's Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist.
Oh.
I have no idea what network it's on because I watch it on Hulu. So find it.
They say it a cajillion times, and the logo's in the corner.
Is it Bing Bing Bing?
Yes, it's on Bing Bing Bing. Yes, it's on Bing Bing Bing.
NBC.
Oh, did you watch that movie? Oh, that network, that company that produces movies.
Remember how I told you I don't pay attention to the words? It's like it's the instrument. And so the Bing Bing.
You're like,
Bing.
you know, the one with the guy. He looks like he's spying on someone through some glass. I'm like, spyglass entertainment.
Whatever. Anyway, it's on that network, and I think people should watch it because it has way more heart than I expected, and it might be one of the better TV shows on. Not that I watch them all, but it's better than other things I've watched. And there is a lot of singing, but it's really not as annoying as I thought it would be. And I kind of like that the cast actually sings because they're not perfect. And sometimes it's a little cringy.
Not pitch perfect?
Right. It's a little cringy at times, but also I appreciate that they themselves are doing this. And it's not like this weird overdubbed, all of a sudden they have a completely different voice.
Yeah, the auto-tune comes in.
Yeah. But though most of the cast are very talented singers and dancers. So there's just a few that are like, okay. You did not take that whole what is it called when you have the three talents or whatever? What do they call it?
Trifecta?
Not a trifecta, but
EGOT?
Triple threat. Triple threat.
Yeah.
Some of these people, not so much triple threat, but I appreciate the show, but it has a lot of heart and diversity and things, just different life stages and different things going on.
Different body types?
Lots of those too, yeah. And
it's diverse.
And I read today, because I just watched the finale, and this whole podcast is a big spoiler, but I won't spoil the show. But The podcast is based on the creator's own life experiences. So, though he does not have anyone in his life who was in a magical MRI machine that made them hear singing all the time.
I think there would be things would be really different if that was the case.
There's a lot in the show that he took directly from his own life, which gave it more meaning once I finished watching the finale. Anyway, give it a chance is all I'm saying. Zoe's incredible. No, Zoe's extraordinary playlist.
All she is saying is give Zoe a chance.
Yes.
Copyright infringement. We also watched Rick and Morty.
Yep.
The new episode of this season 4. And it was strange. It was good, but it was strange. But I was hoping not to think that hard. I think that's the only thing I could say. That's the only thing I could say about it is I was hoping to not think that hard. I usually have to think because I have to process all the old episodes and what I think might be happening and what they're trying to say and what they're trying us not to know what they're saying. And then this one was just kind of like, it was just like I was on drugs. It was just like one thing would happen and then it wouldn't happen and then another thing would happen and another wouldn't. And then
this episode was definitely best watched without trying to figure, like, just turn your brain off and watch it. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, but the thing is I wish they would have told me. I think I was ready. I was ready to go in with some sort of disclaimer. Like, well, also all the shows of this season were pretty straight ahead. Like, oh, there's the snakes, the space snakes. There's I can't remember the other episodes, but they were all kind of silly. So they might have been deep or whatever, but they were also very silly. So I was like, oh yeah, we're gonna have more silly. We're gonna have some science. We're gonna have some weird trickery and aliens and whatever. And then I was just like,
what's his face floating away this season?
Yeah. Okay. That was the same as the snakes.
Oh, it was all the same episode?
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, what happened in the episode? We've watched that episode so many times. The episode Rick and Morty with the snakes.
He's like, oh, just because I gave him half of his body weight, like anything bad's gonna happen to him. They're like, oh my gosh, we gotta go get Jerry. Something like that. I'm sure Rick and Morty fans are hating me right now.
Right.
So let's get into the main event.
Ooh, that's bad.
Yeah, too bad. You can't cut it out now.
Lots of ooze. I'm trying to find the ooze. Okay, let's do this.
So yeah, the movie Bohemian Rhapsody is lay down some of that fat IMDb hot goss.
All right. So IMDb says that Bohemian Rhapsody is the story of the legendary British rock band Queen and lead singer Freddie Mercury, leading up to their famous performance at Live Aid 1985.
What flavor of Gatorade was that?
What? Flavor of Gatorade?
Live Aid. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Or Kool-Aid.
It's the green one.
Kool-Aid. It's a knockoff Kool-Aid.
I think it would be green.
I think Live Aid would be a competitor to Gatorade because life, it's like vitality and, you're playing a game.
Drink called like life something? Life milk water, or something? Or life
water.
Oh, there is life water. But I feel like there's something like Coke Life or something.
Yeah, there's I think it's some sort of Coca-Cola. I think it's Splenda and a little bit of sugar.
Something like that.
I think it is stevia. Yeah. I think it's stevia and sugar. It's a little bit of sugar, a little bit of stevia.
Stevia is my nemesis.
Yeah. You hate them all.
I just haven't had those in so long.
So yeah, did you read it?
Yeah, that was it.
That was it?
Yeah.
They're always so short.
Yeah. It was pretty accurate though. I mean, the movie was 2 hours and 15 minutes, but summed up in one sentence works.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much their whole story and then leading up to Live Aid.
Yeah.
The big chunks of their story. Like Queen existed after Freddie Mercury died. Spoiler alert. But people are like, what? But I think that no one cares about that, but it's kind of you're pretty much who was saying it. The guy from LCD Sound System, he said, "We're the best LCD Sound System cover band." You're essentially there's going to be no new
Right.
music per se, and you're now just a cover band. So it's. But if I got tickets, I'd go see Queen with
Yeah.
Adam Lambert.
I would go see Queen. He seems like, well, I don't want to say a decent replacement for Freddie Mercury, but I could see him in
We've
his band.
seen him perform.
We did?
They did the Grammys one year, and it was good. I was like, oh.
Oh, yeah. The way you said that, I thought we had seen, like,
Yeah.
Adam Lambert in concert somewhere, and I was like,
yeah, remember that time
what?
I got you tickets for your birthday to Adam Lambert and Queen?
Well, we have seen a lot of random performances out and about.
That's true.
So I thought maybe one of those random when we happened upon Stevie Wonder at the Grove, like.
Well, no,
something
you saw
like that.
You saw that. You got an email about that.
So Josh, did you know
No.
that the Live Aid concert was the first thing they shot for the movie?
Huh. Interesting.
That's like the big finale scene mostly, and that was the first thing they did. And the audience, obviously, they did not hire 250,000 extras, and they didn't film this at Wimbledon because I think that's not even there anymore.
You mean Wembley?
Wembley.
Excuse me, can you move? I am trying to win the cup.
Can we take the net down?
Yeah.
We have a
all right, just calm down. The concert will be over in a minute.
What is it called? Wembley?
Now you got me. Yeah, Wembley.
Wembley, okay.
Wembly's still around. I don't know if it's the same Wembley.
I think it's a different Wembley. So
like Madison Square Garden?
Right. So they had like 100 extras, and they 360 scanned them and then multiplied them out to get that big crowd, because they actually shot the thing at an old plane hangar. What is it? Airport? An old.
I'll let you figure it out.
They built a giant
airplane
set. At a former airfield. That's the word.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Shout out to Graham Sean Weatherspoon, my brother, whose body is somewhere in the Fox archives because he was in Alita. He did the exact same thing. He was 3D scanned.
Right, and turned into an alien or something, right?
I don't even remember. I just remember he told me, and I was like, whoa, that's crazy.
So maybe they just threw him into the Live Aid concert.
Maybe he was that one black guy I saw.
Works. Yeah.
I was like, hey, that guy looks like my brother.
Yeah.
And he looks like Busta Rhymes. Yeah. And he looks like Tracy Morgan. Yeah. Shout out to him.
Are you ready for another Did You Know?
I did know that I was ready for it.
Okay. Well, did you know that in 2010, when this movie was first coming together, Sacha Baron Cohen was originally cast as Freddie Mercury?
That actually sounds pretty good, except for he is too tall, in my thoughts. He just seems too tall.
He's really tall, yeah. Oh, that would have been, very different.
Yeah.
I don't know how tall Freddie Mercury was. If he was short or not. I don't
know if he was as tall as Sacha. No matter what, Freddie Mercury doesn't look as tall. I think that's the thing.
Yeah. So he quit in 2013.
Before they even did anything.
No, I guess they started working on it, but it was, before filming. But he had creative disagreements.
Oh, yeah.
And he quit. Though they say it was all on good terms, but some people say it was because he wanted to make a grittier movie. And what they were wanting to make was a little more
Oscar movie.
Clean.
Yeah.
A gritty movie could have been.
Yeah, but a gritty movie about I'm about to say Bohemian Rhapsody. About Queen probably wouldn't have been something that's not what people want to see.
Right.
So if you want to win an Oscar in this type of thing, that's not what people want to see.
So Brian May and Roger Taylor, original band members, consulted on the movie. And so they were, them and others, I guess, probably, were wanted to make sure to protect Freddie Mercury's memory and everything. Legacy, yeah. So anyway, they wanted to make a more PG, PG-13.
Yeah, there's so many things that you could probably put in that movie that is just eh, like, is it really worth it? You know, is
Right.
it really worth it to lay out every dumb decision I've ever made in my life and every wild thing I've ever done? Probably not. Especially when people know you probably did some weird stuff. You're a rock and roll star, and they don't really want to see that.
Yeah,
Only,
which is what the movie got some heat for. A little bit. People were disappointed they left out so much of his personal life.
yeah. Well,
But I don't actually know what this movie was about. I don't want to say that's not what it was about because that was his life and it was about his life, but up until a certain point. It wasn't supposed to be like this big like tell all kind
right.
of a movie, like reveal all the secrets kind of movie. It was just like a tell the story.
I think this movie did a great job as an overview movie.
Yeah.
I've seen overview movies and I've seen detailed movies. I didn't like the James Brown movie with I was supposed to say Bokeem Woodbine. What's his name from Wakanda?
Chadwick?
Yes, Chadwick Boseman. Yes, um, it was focused on a very narrow part of his life, and I
Hmm.
think it did some other things, but mainly it was just very, very narrow, and that's really hard to do because it's literally niche. It's like, hey, we're gonna talk about, you know, you can only really do that with like the Cuban Missile Crisis or something that's extremely tense. It was 5 days, but other than that, especially when it might be the only time that that's done, people kind of want to get a decent overview. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like this and Rocket Man and, you know, a lot of other movies do that pretty well and cover a good amount of ground. Also, you got to deal with multiple people in a way that are like, it's about Freddie mainly, but there's other people in the band. So it's not like Malcolm X where you're like, oh, we're just gonna talk about Malcolm X and then we'll talk about these other characters. We'll talk about Elijah Muhammad and this guy. But it's like we're talking about Malcolm X, so we can devote our time to that. But you kind of gotta feed out to all the other characters. So
Right.
I think they did a good job at it, and it was an enjoyable movie. And I know some people were talking about, yeah, one of the things is like they didn't really delve into his sexuality as people think they should and
Right.
different stuff like that. But I'm sure there was creatively and I think, you know, as most people are thinking about financially, like how that works because you're dealing with middle America and religion and all, you know, all that type of stuff. And so it's just kind of like, if we know what it is, we know what happened. If you want to know more, you can go over here. But to kind
Right.
of
That's
keep
we're not telling
things,
that story
because to keep things like,
today.
yeah, we're gonna let you know about it, but we're
Right.
not gonna go into it because I
Right.
know you'll be doing what you usually do,
So
burning signs and stuff.
so Rami came on in
Yeah.
2016, I think it was. Um and he was just like a casual Queen fan at the time, didn't really
Hmm.
know much about Queen, and so then he seems like a really method kind of dude.
Yeah.
And so when he got cast, he like dove in and like studied and learned to play piano, had to practice talking with his fake teeth and learn what else? Oh, he studied videos and
And A-frame shirts.
and had to like get his mannerisms and all and just dove right in. So at the end of it, he's like a massive Queen fan now and is just like loves it, thinks Freddie was amazing
Well,
and everything. Obviously, he
that's
became him.
well,
So
not obviously. That's the best outcome you could have because there's
well, I
nothing
guess
worse
that's
than
true. Yeah,
you get into the project and you're like,
right. I'm
I
not
don't
feeling
really
this.
like this music. This is
Right.
kind of, you know, so.
But yeah, that's true. So yeah, it is good. Came out of it a massive fan.
Or he could have been sick of it.
Right.
Like it's like, oh my goodness, it just plays in my head.
Right.
It's
Like I
like,
don't want to hear another Queen
right.
song again for the rest of my life.
Like I'm sure it plays in his head to this day.
Yeah.
Like with that band I was in for 4 months,
Right.
those songs are in my head for 3 years.
Yeah.
I would wake up sometimes and be like,
Dang it.
knowing my backing vocal part, you know. So that's a good thing.
Oh yeah, and speaking of his teeth, I guess this was the last, as you know. I have others, but um his teeth. So I was looking up, his prosthetics.
They're actually Freddie Mercury's teeth.
Yes. No. So they said the first guy they used to make the teeth, they said make them like like to scale, like Freddy's teeth. And but on Rami's face was overwhelming.
Right.
So they had to scale him down for his face. Obviously. And then also I didn't even notice, but he had a prosthetic nose.
Oh. Pretty
And
good.
that was
Yeah.
and Rami's eyes are farther bigger and farther apart than Freddy's. So they said like
Really? They're bigger?
Mm-hmm. So the nose helps bring it together. Yeah, and then also they put a crap ton of makeup.
The nose always brings it together, man.
Right. So I always like to know how but I was surprised that's all they talked about doing. I don't know if they did other things to his face. They didn't say so in this article, but his jaw looked like, but he does have a pretty severe jawline to begin with.
Like they are of the same, close to the same types of people.
Right.
Like from the same area of the world. So I think, you don't have to do a ton. And that brings me to a thing that I didn't know until this movie was coming out. I knew that Rami, right?
Rami?
Rami Emanuel?
No, I don't know. Rami Malek.
Mr. Malek.
Mr. Robot.
I knew. It's funny because I've said this before. I don't know if I said it on the podcast, but it's so interesting that the only person besides Rappaport that I can name from the TV show A War at Home is him. And I remember when he was on the show because he was in love with his friend and they would always do these like nods. And he's like, "Do you want to sleep over today?" And he's like, "Do I?" And I always thought that kid, quote unquote, was cool. And I liked his character. I liked the way he played everything. And then come to turn out, he's now an Oscar-winning, like, in-demand actor, Mr. Robot, all that type of stuff. But I think the thing that was interesting to me is until this movie was made, I had no idea that Freddie Mercury wasn't like English white European English.
Yeah, that was a surprise to me.
Like, and it's weird that was it feels like one of those things that you kind of just bring up incessantly, and it annoys people at dinner parties. Like someone's talking about Queen, and somebody's just, that Freddie Mercury's was he Iranian? So I don't know. I forgot what they said. Let's just go with Iranian for now. And then if it's
I just know in the movie they called him Pakistani, and he was like, "I'm not."
Right. Yeah, they've escaped to there, and so that was super interesting because I think as he said when he won the Oscar, he was like, "I'm proud of my heritage and I'm proud of Freddie Mercury and I'm proud to be Iranian." And I think that's something that everybody needs for their culture, like to be able to be proud and to not even know for sure that a huge, massive person was, came from your part of the world or came from your culture. It's like, oh man, like that's crazy. And I just think more people should. I guess more people know that probably now, but I think the movie it doesn't hint. It shows that he kind of possibly was running away from that, which I thought that was interesting. And as everything we're talking about, we didn't research everything, so we don't know how much of the movie is fake or real in the portrayals and stories.
Well, I can tell you, there is a website that gave it a rating of 79.9% true.
Ooh.
Though there is a list of inaccuracies on Wikipedia.
Was one of them that he was ashamed of his heritage?
No.
But yeah, in the movie, he's kind of ashamed of his heritage, which is interesting because his family fled from one part of the world to another and then fled from there to England.
That was one of the inaccuracies. The way they told it in the movie was that they fled and had like a day and they had the stuff they had with them, the clothes, but really they had, it's still not great.
18 years.
It's still not great, but they have months to relocate themselves.
So
you're like,
they had time to be able to get to be in fear and run away.
That was one of the things I read. Right. Was that wasn't
right. It just sounds more dramatic.
Right. They dramaed it up.
But I think it was just interesting because his family ran, and then he ran from his family. He was like, I'm Freddie Mercury. I'm not. I don't even remember how to pronounce his real name, but it's just like, I'm not this guy. I'm Freddie Mercury. I'm English. This is me. You know, I was born in England. They're like, no, you
Did
weren't.
you saw that as him running from his family, or more? I didn't get that he was running. I got that he was just embracing who he felt he was.
I think there's a little bit of that, but I think as you look at the relationship with him and his dad, which is kind of a lot of relationships between sons and dads, at least in movies, but also it just kind of seemed like he didn't want to. I think it was a little bit of both because when they brought out the pictures, it seemed like he didn't want people to know his past, but then also didn't, as most people do, like don't bring out baby pictures.
Right.
It seemed like it was a dual kind of thing. He was like,
Yeah.
I don't want anybody really to know about my past because of my culture and just because. Like, I just want to be this person and this is it.
Right.
And so in that, I feel like he was purposefully running from both. He's running from his culture on purpose and running from his life on purpose. Same as Rocket Man. Like, he was running from his life,
Yeah, he was.
and essentially his culture, but you know, it's basically just the life part of
So
it.
speaking of Rocket Man, and then comparing, well, I was thinking about this movie and how I don't know if this is real or anything, but the general tone of the movie was that he was very loved. Like
Yeah,
I didn't get this whole like, like Rocket Man, he was loved, but he also had like some hate there. Like his father was absent,
right,
his mom was mean to him.
right,
This was just like everyone just loved him
right. His
for the most part.
bandmates
Yeah.
loved him until he started getting kind of weird,
Right.
and doing a lot of drugs and isolating himself.
And even in that, they loved him.
Yeah, they loved
He
him
was
in
the
a
one
different
that,
way, but yeah,
yeah.
he's the one who pulled away.
Right. But and, like his family was portrayed as his dad was maybe not like wasn't
Right.
accepting,
He was secretively
but
rooting for him, kind of.
but still didn't seem to come across of like,
Right. You're
get out of my
right.
house.
You're good for
like,
nothing.
right.
You've always been.
I
Blah
hate
blah blah.
you. Like
Yeah.
you're supposed to be. Even though the movie got some jabs in, he was like, I didn't he put him through school or something.
He
Private school to boarding school to train him to be
Right,
something
right.
else, like so he could make something of himself. And what good was that? And like, so there was that, which was not great, but also he seemed to be very loved by the people in his life.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting, and I also thought
I hope that was true.
yeah. It seems like it was true. You know, that obviously every band has hard times, but I think it was, what a random, like, I was thinking, how many lifetimes do you have to live to come across three other people that are as passionate and as devoted and as seemingly one accord as you are? Like the way that maybe not every instance of what happened in the movie was reality, but they obviously put that in there for a reason. Everybody had these really strong drive and ambition of what they wanted to do. So when someone said something crazy, everybody else was like, yeah, do that. And it
Right.
wasn't like, hey man, we should try to be like conservative. Why don't we blah blah blah? Everybody was like, yes, let's do that. He's like, I have a
Right.
song.
That's
And then they're like, oh, okay, cool. And it wasn't just like, well, you suck at songwriting. It was just like, that song sucks, but you could write a song. And they would
right.
test each other and push each other.
This movie felt so different in showing a band that didn't just fight all the time and fight for the credit and fight for, like usually band movies or these kinds of movies, there's like the lead and then he just pushes everybody down.
Right.
And so I was struck by this movie. He was like throwing out these, like you're saying, he was throwing out these crazies. And then the guitar player was like, yeah, yeah.
He's like, and then we could do this.
Right. And then we're going to do this. And then also, again, another thing I hope was true is that one of the things I wrote down was Freddie really this encouraging and collaborative?
Oh, yeah.
Like, because it seemed that everybody kind of pulled their own weight. Like everybody came up with bangers, like hit songs. So, like, and you have to have the right environment to create that way. And so in the movie, it was portrayed as like, yeah, he would be diva or throw a fit or something, but also he would recognize, like, hey, that's amazing. What
Right.
is that you're doing right there? Let's run with that. And like, really, they all listened to each other. And then one of the lines he was expressing was like, when he ran off to Germany and was working with these other people, and he was like, they all just do what I tell them to do. I need that pushback. I
Yeah.
needed you guys to tell me when to stop and when to do something different. And I'm like, wow, that's like the band anybody would want to be in.
Right.
And like you're saying, like one in a million getting that group of talent together.
Yeah.
And it's like what, or like a lightning strike, right?
Yeah.
To have that group together and for all of them to really care about each other and to really have, like, they kept calling it a family.
Yeah, I think the relationships, yeah, that they had were pretty amazing. I think the thing that, you know, makes Queen successful with everything that we just mentioned is that, for one, Freddie sings all the songs essentially, but everyone sings.
Mm-hmm.
So you're used to everyone being a part of it. It's not just, and obviously, as you see in the movie and in reality, people love Freddie so much. He's also died, so that adds more to his love. But since when you hear Bohemian Rhapsody, you hear everyone singing.
Right. All the
You don't
voices.
think like, oh, well, Freddie's the brains and he's the great singer, and everybody else is just sitting there plucking things. It's like, no, they all can sing. They all can do their thing. And I think because of that and them being in that environment, also, until we watched this movie, I had no idea that um, We Will Rock You and You're My Best Friend and all these songs were not written by Freddie Mercury.
Oh,
There's
right.
there's no seams, in
Right.
my opinion.
Right.
There's no seams at all to be like, oh, well, that he wrote, and then other bands you can go, oh, the bass player wrote that, because most of the time the bass player or the drummer wants to sing it, and that's in the concert when everybody goes to the bathroom. But it's like there's continuity across all of them as writers. So I thought that was pretty amazing.
I appreciate how they tell the story too. Like I like movies like this where you feel like you get a glimpse behind the curtain of like
Yeah,
how things went down. And so I always hope that the people, the real people or the people related to the people approve.
right.
And so I guess having
That's why I still haven't seen Green Book.
at least having two of the original members
Yeah,
being consultants on it, and for, they may or may not have, swayed some things. I'm sure this was not all as
right.
rosy as it was depicted. And we could
And
tell there
oh,
were
okay.
some infighting by some of the things they talked about at the end, like when Freddie wanted to come back and they were like, no more of this, who wrote the song credits, it's going to be Queen and that's it. Like four ways evenly. So you could tell there was some sort of um some bad blood there a little bit over
Right.
the thing. But at least having people involved that were actually there lends a little more credibility. And I like that. I liked how they told this story. I like that they played up the family, and I don't know. I felt like I was smiling half the movie.
Hmm.
Like it was a good movie and it was sad and he got sick at the end, but I liked the journey. I liked
Yeah.
it was kind of a happy movie ish.
Yeah, I think the thing that I really enjoyed about it was, I think because I don't know if he was whimsical, but Malik's interpretation of him was kind of whimsical. So
Mm-hmm.
it made it's kind of like those 70s sitcoms or 80s sitcoms where, like, Alf, and you're like, ah, Alf, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, ah, I killed me or whatever. I don't remember his tagline. And then you just go, oh, Alf.
Right. He was
And
like
it was just kind
charming
of,
and you
yeah.
wanted to love him and you wanted to forgive him and you wanted to,
Right.
he apologized, but he was still kind of a jerk. Like obviously he would show up late to everything and but I also hopefully, he apologized and they were like,
Yeah.
okay. And he seemed sincere. So Malik did a good job, at least, making him seem beloved, whether he was or not.
Right.
That's how he came across.
I think that's the other hard thing too, because since he died, it's really hard to speak, in generally, not unless someone's a complete dirtbag. It's very hard to speak ill of the dead because all of the bad memories just kind of float away,
Oh, right. You want
And
you want the
so,
good ones.
yeah, you want the good ones. So it's like, even if, there is a bunch of crazy stuff about him or whatever, it's kind of like, a bunch of people have jokes about that. It's like, why don't people go to people's funerals and just be like, man, he was a jerk? They're like, oh, he really liked the drink, and he was, it's like a
Right.
not be. So, but it seems like that's the truth. As much as any human that's being decent can be.
And also, they said, we're not making a documentary, we're making a film.
Right.
So you're gonna give it whatever tint you want it to have.
It's a biopic. It's
right. It's not a documentary.
Moment for moment, shot for shot.
Right. And I'm okay with that.
A bunch of people's lives. The funny thing is, in the beginning, when Freddie met them, I was wondering if that was real.
No.
Because I just thought it was just like a funny thing of how, they were just looking for a singer and he just shows up. Because, that essentially happened to me, where people are like, oh, we need this type of thing. And you're like, I do that type of thing. And then they're like, oh, well, we're looking for professional people. And then you do your show. And then they're like, hey, we're doing this thing. We were wondering if you could be a part of it. You're like, I just asked you that question. You said no. Now you're saying yes. Interesting. Very interesting. So I don't know. But since it wasn't real.
It wasn't real. That was one of the liberties they took. Because probably the real story is not so interesting. That he knew the guy that quit. He already knew him from art school or whatever.
Right.
And
I told you 5 or 4 times.
He had already shown interest in being part of the band prior to that guy quitting. Mm-hmm. And also, this says that Mercury shared a flat with Roger Taylor prior to joining the band. Ooh. So he kind of already knew the guys. So it really wasn't so much of like a cold walk up, hey, I'm going to sing for you, I'm amazing, you're going to want me in your band.
Yeah. And that's how most everything works.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, John's leaving the band. And you're like, hey, Josh, I know you know John. Do you want to join the band?
Right.
He's like, sure. And then they're like, John's back in the band. Get out, Josh. Or Foo Fighters, same thing. A bunch of bands.
Oh, right.
Or they just recycle, kind of like, it's like the bass player quits,
also, the bass player, Deacon, was not the first bass player when they bring him in. Like in the movie, they bring him in after the same time they bring in Mercury. He was the 4th bass player. Ooh. John Deacon. Yeah.
Bunch of Pete Bests out there on bass.
So, can we talk about who I call...
We can talk about whatever you want, honey.
Okay. Well, I want to talk about Thirsty Paul.
That's what you deemed him?
That's what I have deemed him. That was one of my favorite things, was that Freddie was giving people nicknames, and he called the lawyer, his name was Jim Beach, which is his real name. And he was like, that's way too boring. You are now called Miami.
Miami Beach.
So he actually gave people nicknames, mostly women's names, and I can't remember, but he gave everybody nicknames.
That makes sense, because it's Queen.
Yeah. So I have dubbed Paul Thirsty Paul.
Thirsty Paul. Let's talk about Thirsty Paul.
Thirsty Paul was the scumbag. Well, in the movie, he was the villain. His family has disputed. His family does not like this movie so much because they don't think he's portrayed properly, but I'll run with the movie. So he was he was so in love with... I just kept yelling at the TV. He doesn't want you, Paul. Go away, Paul. He doesn't want you, Paul.
Sounds like Dill. Rest in peace, Dill.
Rest in peace, Dill.
Dill the Labrador.
Shout out to Josh and Laura.
Yep. Go away, Dill.
Go away, Dill.
Go away forever.
Extremely inside joke.
Pour out a little bit of Alpo dog food
juice. Dog food for you?
No, just the juice.
Oh, the juice. Ew. And then it just slaps into the carpet. or the
No, that's
floor.
the meat chunks. That would be the
Oh,
meat
okay,
chunks, the
yeah, yeah.
juice.
Well, so Thirsty Paul was just, ugh, I hated that character. I don't know if he was really that thirsty or not, but he was pining for Freddy the entire movie. And he was so shady and got that guy fired, which actually that part wasn't true either. But in the movie, it was extremely upsetting, and he was in Freddy's life far too long.
Was he in his life that long in reality?
He worked for Freddy for 10 years.
That's a good amount of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like there's always somebody in these movies, and seems like in life, where things kind of go off the rails a little bit because they allow someone in their life that just
Yeah.
kind of, whether it's
He was like
far off the
whispering
rails
in
or
his
what.
ear.
Yeah. Um,
But he also because we first thought, we were like, oh no. Because Freddie was engaged, he had a girlfriend that he had proposed to, I think, at this point.
yeah.
And then Thirsty Paul shows up, and we were like, oh no, he's gonna have an affair.
And with someone who works
right, with the guy from the
with the
label.
label.
Don't do it, don't do it. And he didn't. I was so surprised.
In the movie, he
In the
didn't.
movie.
I think that's the thing about like the movie versus real life. If it was if the real life situation was the same type of circumstances and they were around each other that much, I don't, no matter what your sexual orientation is, there's gonna be something. You know what I'm saying? Like, since
Well,
there's gonna be something. Very few times do I ever see, especially when we're talking about rock stars, where people aren't like,
oh, in the movies?
yeah, that's how. And
Yeah.
this is in a bad way.
In movies, they do usually get portrayed
No,
as...
in real life, I'm saying like if you're around someone who is somewhat attracted to you, or you attracted them, or minimal, and you're around each other that much, you're in the car, you're at the house, you're up late, you're here, you're there, blah blah blah. There's something that's gonna happen, whether emotional or physical. That's gonna. It's not like Thirsty Paul. It was all on him. I don't really think Thirsty Paul was so thirsty he was making all this stuff up. I'm sure, there's some sort of flirtatious something happening, and so I think that's part of what I'm saying is the difference between maybe the movie and real life, of things that may not have been addressed, of like maybe, maybe he was leading this guy on, or maybe he was, using him for emotional, support in a way that's kind of more of a relationship type thing. So that's how that guy was able to be so influential to him. And it's not like, oh, poor poor Mr. Mercury, he's the victim. That's all I'm saying. It's like, maybe in reality he wasn't necessarily the victim, because he was complicit in some sort of way in that relationship.
Maybe.
That's all.
But I say Thirsty Paul was the villain and needed to go.
Yeah, probably.
And I love the scene where he essentially fired him, where Freddy's standing in the rain and Paul is yelling out the door to him. And Freddy never turns around. He just yells, like, I don't want to see you ever again in my life, or whatever he says. Super dramatic. And I actually liked it. He just seemed so stupid standing there in the doorway. And Freddy's like, get out of my house. Finally unshackling him.
I think that's the funny thing about that scene is, he was trying to keep that girl away from him, his old fiance. And then he invites over a bunch of people that Freddy doesn't even know. And he's like, come inside. I want to introduce you to like 14 people.
Right.
I'm like, this isn't a meet and greet, dude. This is my house.
Though I am making fun of Thirsty Paul, and it was sort of like a like Freddy was Thirsty Freddy for Mary. And Mary didn't want to be with him, but he wanted her in his life.
Well, he wanted her kind of...
Not quite it wasn't quite like
it wasn't
Thirsty
like
Paul,
a beard,
for sure.
but more as like...
confidant?
Yeah, like a hangout buddy. And she's like, I gotta live a life. I'm just gonna sit on tour with you. Or like... And the thing is everything he said...
But he
is
still
like,
longed for her to be close to him.
But the relationship was very one way, because he would always be like, I want you to do something for me. I want, like... What kind of relationship was that? Where every time someone calls... And I have some relationships like that, where like every time somebody calls me, they're asking for something.
Right.
And it's like, we should be together every day. Like, no, I'm not going to sit here.
So he was a little bit Thirsty Freddy, but not like Thirsty Paul. And Thirsty Paul was the villain. And I love the scene where he says, I think this is all in the same scene, but I wrote the line down because I loved it. He said that, I think he said, you know when you're rotten because there's fruit flies.
Oh,
And the
right.
fruit flies just buzz around waiting to devour what's left.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, Thirsty Paul, he just called you a fruit fly. And I was like, oh, wait, that's so true. Like when people are buzzing around and you're down and people are just there to pick off like what's left of you.
Right.
Not build you up and make sure you're protected. Thirsty Paul the fruit fly.
That's a really long name. Oh, so in the movie they talked about they were arguing about I'm in love with my car and how dumb of an idea that was.
Yeah.
And blah blah blah. And I was like, I love I'm in love with my car. I love bicycle.
You know that song?
Yeah. I'm in love with my car. Yeah. I forgot the other words are. But it's a great song.
Oh, I need to hear this song.
Yeah, it's a great song. And then bicycle is obviously
I love. Is it like an ode to your
Fat Bottom
bicycle?
Girls. That's a great song. Like they're all when you look at the title, you're like, this song's gonna be dumb, and then you hear it go. It's kind of like some sort of food where someone's like, hey, have you ever had a nacho apple? You're like, nacho apples, this would be dumb, and then you're like, this is the best thing ever.
Right.
Nacho apples. So yeah, we'll listen to it. Not now because this episode will get pulled down. Yeah, but it's like it's kind of like it's a fun song. It's like Octopus's Garden or Yellow Submarine. It's not as silly as that.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, like, you need to have those songs. It's fine to have those songs that are just a little bit different, and especially in that time period.
Yeah.
Why not?
Why not? Indeed.
I also kind of thinking back on how people think about Freddie Mercury and how people think about art and whatnot. There's dozens of writers that look really dumb as 10 years go by, but they showed all the reviews from Bohemian Rhapsody, and even the label was kind of like about this whole thing. And it's just always interesting, like when you get taught as a child, you think that everything was all the people that we deem amazing, everyone thought they were amazing at the time. Like everybody loved Lincoln except for the Confederates. New York loved Lincoln. Maine loved Lincoln. Like, nope. New York was pissed at Lincoln. They were like, how long is this war going to go on? We're going to vote you out. This is a waste of time. We kind of want to help slaves, but we want to just make money. We don't care. And it's like Martin Luther King, people were like, you're a sellout. We don't really like you. You're not doing anything for black people. And then he dies. And like, oh, Martin Luther King was the most amazing guy ever. And I think it's the same kind of thing with music. People are like, oh man, this thing is just some self-grandizing, dumb, blah, 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 blah. And then the audience or 10 years later or after someone dies, they go, wow, now I look back on it and blah, blah, blah. But, hindsight's 2020 and being, sometimes you have to sit with something to be able to process it.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine like hearing Bohemian Rhapsody the first time? Like on the radio back when it first came out, like it was probably super unique and super weird.
That's true, because I can actually think about right now. Like I listened to the newest Tool album and I was like, it just doesn't have the vibe of the other ones. But I've never listened to it again because, kind of like they were saying, it's really long. The album, the songs are like 9 minutes long, so I really have to sit and invest.
Right.
And so I need to go back and revisit it. Luckily, I don't write music blogs, so there's no record of me going, this album sucks.
This is trash. And then you love it a week
I wish
later.
the old Tool, but
even now, like new songs, I rarely like a new song from anybody.
Really?
The first listen. Not very often. I'll hear it. I mean, it kind of depends. Maybe it depends on the listening mood I'm in, but a lot of times, new songs, the first time I hear them, I'm like, okay. And then, it gets in, and then maybe a week later, and I'm like bopping to it.
I think that makes me think about probably the most modern day thing I can think of right now is 808 and Heartbreaks. I was talking about that the other day, where it came out and people were like, what is this? What's this? This isn't rap. This is some 80s stuff. This is white music. This is blah. Why is he yapping and crying and blah? And now every rap artist that's out there is like 808 and Heartbreaks is like the thing that inspired me to make music, and the thing
Right.
that inspired me to be emotional and talk about my feelings and all that. So I think that's the only thing I can think of, like off the top of my head, that's kind of like people panned it when it first came out, and very few people kind of quote unquote got it when it first came out. So I thought that was just kind of funny because when we think of Bohemian Rhapsody as whatever we are, Gen Xers, early millennials, generations X,
Right.
Y, Z,
Wherever.
we're like, whoa, Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody. And so it's
It's
kind
like
of,
it's epic now.
yeah. And,
But it might, yeah, it totally might have been one of those weird. I'm like, what is this crap, and why is it still going?
I don't know. It's like the first time I heard Dark Side of the Moon, my mind was blown. I didn't think like, oh, this is dumb. I immediately was like, this is amazing.
That's true.
Um, but yeah, it's a huge combination of things and recording and lyrics and all this stuff. But they did a great job. And one of the things that I really liked about it was they showed real like musical stuff happening. Like they showed them experimenting in the
Oh, I
studio
love that scene.
and like trying to come up with different ways and double voices. And
Yeah.
I thought that was cool. They also weren't just standing there doing like weird stuff, and then they zoom in on hands and then
Right.
it's like
Right.
a really hairy guy's hands, and things like that. So
Like throwing like coins on the drums and
yeah.
swinging. I don't know what it was they were swinging. Was it an
It was
amp?
it was a no, yeah, the amp was swinging back and forth.
And they were following it with the
and they were
mic.
following it with the mic
There's
stand.
some very,
Yeah.
very interesting.
So actually some stuff that I'm gonna
If
be
you want
working
to call
on
them
for
techniques,
fun.
it made me think of you. Actually, yeah, I was like, oh, Josh's gonna get all kinds of ideas.
Yeah, I did.
He's gonna
I
tie
got
a
more
microphone
ideas.
to the ceiling fan and like put.
I didn't think about that, but
oh no.
actually I can't. I would need a wireless microphone because then it would get caught up in
Right.
the thing. But
Yeah, but that was still a pretty cool process to see in the film.
when was the first time you heard Queen?
I don't know. I feel like my dad.
Yeah, it had to be your dad.
Yeah, pretty sure my dad listened to Queen. But also, I think I heard Queen way more than I ever knew I heard Queen
Right.
because there's so many songs. I was saying to you earlier, they have, I don't even know how many songs that have infiltrated into like every piece of life. Like
Yeah.
commercials and TV shows and I don't
Sports
know.
arenas.
Right, sports arena, everything. There's a Queen song for it.
Right.
Like Apple, there's an app for that. There's a Queen song for
Yeah.
that.
Well, it's funny because my story of the story that you just told is like that for the Beatles. Like I didn't know I literally didn't know any Beatles songs until 2001.
Really?
I bought Beatles number 1 came out, and that was one of the things that made me stop hating on ideas that I thought were dumb or weird. Was they re-released Beatles number 1, and I used to think when they would re-release stuff that it was really dumb and that it's just a money grab, but it's really also a way for people who didn't know about it to have access to it and to promote something, because they're not going to go, hey, this album got released 40 years ago, you should listen to it. They got to do a re-release so that
Right.
they can really. And so for me, that re-release taught me that lesson, but then also made me, was listening to number 1, so it's like, oh, I know this song. Oh, I know this song. I know this song. Like, oh, that's the Beatles. Like, I think I knew Let It Be was the Beatles, but not too much more. But for Queen, the first time I heard Queen, and I might have asked who it was, but I was at ECCC in Connecticut as a camp in the summer, and we had a dance party thing, and I remember I was on like the other side of this embankment where the football, soccer, rugby area was, and everybody was dancing, and I was walking up, and then they were playing Another One Bites the Dust, and there was
So
like
you had like
fog.
this epic entrance into
No, it
the
wasn't
dance
about me
party.
interested. No, but it was like, you know how it starts up and it's like, like, so as I'm walking up, the music starts, and then it's kind of got this strut.
Did your
And
strut
then-
change?
No, it has nothing to do with me. The way that the smoke, I think they had a smoke machine. Maybe it was fog. It was all out in the woods.
Uh-huh.
But the way that the light from where the party was on the field,
Uh-huh.
and then the smoke or whatever was kind of coming over us, and then there was lights, so it was almost like a concert.
Oh,
So it's
right.
like I kind of saw Queen in a
Uh,
way, and it's like "Dun, dun, dun," and I'm like, whoa, what is this? And then everybody's dancing, and then it's like another one, but and so it's like you instantly know those words. It's
yeah.
easy words, it's words you've heard before, and just like "We Will Rock You" and the stamp and that, it was easy, just like when you see somebody doing like the 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 electric slide, you just look for a second and then you just hop in, and then
Right.
it's just easy, and
Right.
then everyone's going another one bites the dust, do 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 do. Bass line's easy, everybody can
So
sing
these are the
along.
line dances of music.
Yeah, I think we were doing like the electric slide to it or something. I
But
don't
you know what
remember.
I mean? Like the thing that, because in the movie, that's what they said. They wanted to make a song that the audience could participate
Right.
with. So it's the same kind of concept. Like the
Yeah.
electric slide is something that anybody and everybody can just jump in.
Right. Well, if you have legs. Well, you even if you don't have legs, you can still do it.
Yeah. So,
You just gotta be alive, I guess.
yeah. So, uh, yeah. But now I'm picturing, now that you set the stage for that story, I have like an epic image of you strutting onto the field for the
Nah,
party.
I wasn't that cool.
That
I
is a
wasn't.
song though. When that comes on, if you're walking along, that definitely changes your strut.
Yeah, you're definitely gonna walk differently.
Right.
It also reminds me. Earlier today, I watched the Foo Fighters documentary from 2012, and he essentially did the same thing. He was trying to find he was trying to find a way to get audiences, like an intro song that got audiences really pumped, and it was the song "Enough Space," and he kind of figured out a jumping tempo
Oh,
to
okay.
get people to jump, and
Yeah.
him saying that has been really on my brain the last. I tell my students about it, and it's something that's on my brain a lot for my own music, and then this adds to it of like you were saying and what they did in the movie where he's just like, okay, everyone, he got all the wives and the other bandmates, and Freddie was late. He got well, it was the guitar player. Yeah, he got everybody to do the boo
Mm-hmm.
boo boo just to see how that felt. And I think those are key things. Like as people say, they're tribal things. Getting people to jump up and down, getting people to move their hips, getting people to clap and stomp. If you could do that, like you're saying, it's something that involves the audience, and they immediately feel like they're a part of the song
Right. You're
and
all
they're
immediately
band members.
connected.
And I think that's the reason why Queen is so loved
So
and popular.
successful. Yeah.
Yeah,
And so,
because
for
they let
sure.
people be in that. Ayo. It's funny because I always think
Right.
of Deo,
I do
but every time that's
too.
being sung, so people always feel a part of it. The other thing I thought that was really amazing that came to my mind was in concerts and a few other things are the very few places where 1 to 5 people can command thousands or tens of thousands of people, and sometimes hundreds of thousands of people, to do something in a non-violent way. Where
Right.
most of the time you get one guy or a couple of guys to go, you flank that way, you turn it this way, and we'll kill all these people. But here you're saying, hey, everyone, we're a big happy family or whatever, and I want you to clap or lighters or hug the person next to you or whatever. And then people, will do it. And they're doing it
Right.
for the good in the community of music. And I thought that really like struck a chord with me when I saw all the audiences throughout the whole movie and how they were responding to
Singing
Queen.
along. Yeah. And movies like this also remind me that, because we think of like that whole call response thing, right? Like sometimes you might think like, oh, that's just like a gimmick that they do. It's just habit in the show where you stick the microphone out, everybody sings along. But I like it when the movies show how much that means to the artist.
Yeah.
Like he came off stage and he was like, listen to that. Oh, the live taping of one of their concerts, and he stopped singing, and because everyone was singing along,
Yeah.
and he just stopped. And I like it when they portray that, when they show the artist like kind of in awe of like, oh my gosh, we're all doing this together, and everyone, something I worked on means enough to these people
Right.
to learn it and sing along too,
Right.
and really experience it all together. And I forget that like even big artists, like
Yeah.
huge people, they're still human beings, and they
Right.
still appreciate being appreciated.
Yeah.
So it still means something to them when people respond back with that kind of love.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Yeah, we a lot of times we don't think that they're people. We think
Right.
that just because they're possibly millionaires, they've won Grammys, that they are immune to feeling like they're frauds or feeling like they've fallen off or feeling like their music actually was never good or whatever.
Or that they're immune to the appreciation.
Right.
Even like, oh, it doesn't
Oh
matter
yeah, they're just
anymore.
kind of like, oh, you're a
Okay.
nobody anyway, so
Right.
I don't really care if
Or
you
just
like
yeah,
this
yeah,
song.
yeah. Everyone loves me. Like, I get it. Like, no.
I remember,
Maybe there's some people like that.
I'm sure there, yeah.
But
That I remember the first time that happened to me is when I had done Beats to the Future and I did that thing with Abed and some of those guys right before we moved out here, and somebody was there, and they were a friend of a friend, and they were like, "Oh, you're the Beats to the Future guy? Like I listen to that album all the time, and when I drive to work," and I was just kind of like,
what?
"Whoa!" Like something I did in the middle of the night over the course of 3 months uh, had
Somebody
resonated.
else,
Yeah,
right?
resonated with somebody else.
Somebody
So.
else is taking the time
Right.
to pull that up on however they listen to things,
Right.
and listen to it.
Yeah, the only way to get it was to download it from my website directly.
Right. Or
At the
if
time.
they came to the party and bought a CD.
But yeah, I didn't know them.
Right.
They were just they were just random.
Yeah, so it's an effort that was taken
Right.
to appreciate something you put together.
Right. And then to say something.
Right.
Yeah. So I think it is amazing when people love something or like something or interested in something, and then they say that, and then for the artists, yeah, it means a lot to hear somebody because people slave over stuff, and then they're like, is anybody gonna like this?
Right.
And then because it's like a name, it's like faceless people. Like even if you sell 2 million copies, you're like, I don't know where they went. Like, were they actual people, or did my label buy this?
Right.
Or they,
Yeah.
what actually happened? So yeah, it's pretty cool.
So with that, I want to say Bohemian Rhapsody, I loved you. Rami Malek, I appreciate your performance and all the effort you put into it. I know you won an Oscar for it, but Michelle appreciates you too.
Yes. Yeah, I really enjoyed the movie. I thought that yeah, it was just great. Everybody's performances were great. Nobody felt weird.
Mm-mm.
Maybe Dave did or whatever, because he didn't say much. The husband of the girl.
Oh,
his
right,
first
Mary's
love.
guy.
Yeah, I thought his situation was just hilarious to me. It's just one of those weird things. It's like your mom works with Steve Carell's sister or something like that, or
I can't
cousin.
some weird connection.
So it's just like it would just be weird to say, "Oh yeah. I knew Freddie Mercury." Like, "Oh, you did?" Like, "Yeah, my wife dated him for a time." We're like,
what?
"What? Like when?" Like, "Yeah, when he was starting to get famous." And then it's like, "Huh, that's crazy." But like, isn't he also gay? Like, yeah, he is. Like, huh, that's interesting. Like, so what yeah, we went to concerts, we went backstage, we hung out with the band. You hung out with the band? Yeah, a number of times. Like, huh? Like,
Okay.
interesting. I'm gonna start paying attention to you
Right,
more.
right.
Like, how do you end up in these situations? And then probably you'd go to the wife. So what was Freddie Mercury like? Tell me stories. Like, well,
Right.
he always wanted me to turn on and off a light, and so that was that. So, I thought, yeah, but yeah, great movie. Go
enjoyed
see
it.
it. Go rent. Go. It's on HBO.
Stream it.
It's not something. It's HBO. So
All
with
right.
that, we say, hey.
Hey.
All right. Bye. Good night.
Bye.
I'm Josh. She's Michelle.
Au revoir.
Hey, we just saw a movie. We're also on Likewise. If you like
Likewise.
recommendations for movies and usual stuff.
Hit us up on all the normal spots: Instagram, Twitter.
Yeah. Everything's hey, we just saw a movie, except for Twitter is just saw a movie. But we need to update that more. And shout out again to Ben Merritt for sponsoring us through Patreon. If you want to sponsor us through Patreon, same thing. Patreon.com/Hey We Just Saw a Movie. And you will get episodes early. We're humans, so sometimes not every time, but you'll get episodes early. And we have some other perks as we try to build this thing.
And if you enjoyed this episode, go on over to Apple Podcasts, drop a little rating.
Yeah.
For us.
It was fire, bro. You dripping, bro.
I won't even tell you to give us 5 stars. Give us what's in your heart. We like 5 stars, but do you?
We do like the things that jingle, but the things that float or whatever pastors say. The dollar bills.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, bye for real.
Love you.
Bye.